on the topic of elevating multi-cloud conversations with Amit Zaveri, who is VP and head of platforms at Google Cloud. Prior to joining Google Cloud, Amit was the executive VP and GM of Oracle Cloud Platform and middleware, and he generated more than $6 billion of revenue for Oracle annually. Moderating this panel, we're really excited to have Ray Wang. Ray is a Silicon Valley veteran. Currently, he's the CEO of Constellation Research Incorporated. He also co-hosts Disrupt TV, a weekly enterprise tech and leadership webcast. And if that's not enough, he has published the best-selling book, Disrupting Digital Business. So I'd like to welcome Ray and Amit to the stage, to the virtual stage, and discuss their thoughts on elevating the multi-cloud conversation.
That's great. Thanks a lot for having us. Amit, great to see you again. This is amazing. And just make sure we're all off of mute. I want to make sure I'm off mute if you can hear me, and this is wonderful. So, hey, let's start with the question around the cloud. How does the cloud evolve in the future? We've been talking about cloud for 20 years, Amit. You put the public cloud out for Oracle. You've been building, Fusion apps, Fusion middleware for ages. I mean, you've been here in the middle of the whole cloud revolution. Where do we go with the cloud going forward? Great.
All right.
Yes. So how does the cloud evolve in the future? So
I think we need to first fix microphone problems first, but yes, always. No, as I was mentioning, I think speaking to many of our customers, one thing they're seeing is a need for openness. And I think somebody mentioned earlier when we were introducing the multi-cloud part is becoming very, very real. I would say if you look at some of the surveys from Gartner, for example, I think 81% of companies nowadays are using 2 or more cloud providers. And it's going to be the trend as we go forward as well, because I think customers do care about openness, flexibility, choice, and freedom. And I think that's really the next generational requirement as we build new services to be available in multiple ways for customers to consume. So as long as you architect it, go ahead.
No, it's a great point. First gen cloud feels like a lock-in. Right? Second gen cloud is much more open and about multi-cloud. So that's very important. But continue. Sorry, I jumped in on you there. So
no. I think if you look at just any evolution of software or any kind of enterprise offerings, always has been like that, right? I mean, we were pretty good at doing that at Oracle, as you know, when I was there. When you build a software and make it very, very specific to a particular way of delivering and deploying. But I think the customers are demanding more and more flexibility and choice. So multi-cloud hybrid is another one which we're seeing a lot of need and demand for, where there would be some pieces of control plane running in public cloud, but you want to deploy your runtime wherever you choose to. Could be in different public cloud providers, could be on-prem, could be in a private cloud. So those making sure that you have those kind of capabilities available in the broader cloud portfolio, so the customers have both multi-cloud as well as hybrid. I think the 2 big trends, and associated with that, we've also seen a lot of demand and need for elevating the cloud services to be much more industry specific. Where instead of saying, you know what, I provide infrastructure, which is nice and great, a lot of compute, storage, and network, but that's now become a kind of table stakes. Everybody does that, and it's proven that works. I think the requirement now for many of the customers is to kind of elevate the services to be much more industry specific, where you understand the domain of a particular customer, be it retailers or be it in financial services or telco or public sector, wherever maybe the industry be, but then provide a lot of data models and applications which are very specific to those use cases and optimizes the business processes for that needs. And it's not just providing you the infrastructure, but a lot of platform as well as services which are much more industry specific. And that I think is going to become more and more of a big need for many of the customers, and it will allow the cloud providers to be much more differentiated as well as be much more valuable beyond just being the infrastructure providers.
It's a great point, right? I mean, AML and KYC for financial services requires a special approach, given transaction speeds and also the security requirements. It's going to be very different if you don't build those things in place. But there are other important things, like what other use cases do customers have across the board? We see analytics, automation, and AI taking off. What are you guys doing there? And what are some trends?
Yeah, we did a lot of work. I think we have learned over many years. I mean, as you know, Google has been pretty good at building foundational AI technologies. A lot of good research, a lot of good capabilities. And we have solved many problems for many of our customers when they want to build those things themselves around it. But what we're seeing as a trend now is really adding to those AI ML models and AI ML platforms ability to have, as you said, KYC kind of use cases, or even telehealth is becoming a big thing. So how do you build a solution on top of an AI ML foundation is one thing, and automation associated with that, right? When the processes are becoming cross-cutting, it's not just one particular app, but also going between boundaries between different partner ecosystems, as well as a supply chain or whatever may be the case. And that is becoming a big requirement as well. So that's how I see elevating this AI ML to much more be valuable to our customers, not only for data scientists, but also for business users. So you make AI ML more pervasive and embedded. And it's not for AI for the sake of AI, but much more business specific use cases been delivered. And we've seen that in retail with e-commerce, supply chain optimization. We see that in financial services with KYC, but also like anti-money laundering kind of use cases coming out because of that. And it's much more sophisticated than it used to be. Document management, where you can now manage a lot of mortgage requirements and make it more automated end-to-end processes, and have insights into that as well. We can collect the data and do a lot more views into it.
So what you're basically saying is start with the cloud, get everything in there, build the data foundation that's out there, start asking the right business questions for analytics, and then over time automate that process, and then apply the AI and ML patterns as we start collecting more and more data and use those insights, and then get down and be industry specific. This means there's a whole bunch of new business models that are actually popping up based on the cloud. We saw some interesting announcements, right? You with a large auto company, you with a large healthcare company, you with a large retailer, right? Are these new business models coming because of the cloud or because of other reasons as well?
I think it's combination. I think what is happening is now with a lot of this, as you said, the automaker like Ford, what we working with Ford, we working with Mayo Clinic, we working with Univision. All of these companies are able to now take some of the ability they had to kind of put into the future looking projects, because they can now move a lot of the heavy lifting of cloud or infrastructure, or they are running data centers to providers like Google, right? So now they're able to free a lot more resources inside the business teams and IT teams to think about a lot more futuristic use cases. This is where we are able to collaborate and say, you know, we'll take the pain of running and operating and securing your cloud services for sure. But on top of that, we'll provide you a lot more sophisticated applications as well as business data management systems, so that you can now build a lot of the next generation use cases as well. And that's, I think, is really how a lot of the customers and partners we work with are able to think with us in a joint way, and we can innovate and partner in much more longer term kind of projects than we would have otherwise. So tactical part are always there, and now we've taken that pain away. We can now focus on a lot more of the broader and the long-term value add to themselves as well as to the customers and customers as well.
Yeah, that's a big shift, right? We've gone from just the standard cloud lift and shift relationship now to something a lot more strategic. And this has happened very quickly, I'd say in the last 5 years, would you say? That's kind of been the change that we've seen in these models?
I think it's been even accelerated over the last couple of years. I would say, I think one thing which we saw with COVID and this pandemic is that most of the customers we work with, the digital transformation became very accelerated. Everybody's kind of talking about it. There's not really even a question about they need to be digital. They need to have digital front doors. They need to have digital processes. They need to have a lot more automation, a lot of connections and integration. So everybody's realizing that need for it, right? A lot of times with a lot of band-aid solutions were existing and people were just living and surviving through that. I think over the last 14, 15 months, that has just really not been able to scale. And everybody we talk to, all customers we speak to, they want this thing to be accelerated. That's coming from the board, is coming from the CEO. It's no longer a CIO's problem anymore, right? And this is why I think we're seeing a lot of need for having solutions like this, where you can quickly turn around and integrate systems, quickly build and get data insights into it, and quickly be able to deliver end user application or solutions associated with the systems you have built as well.
You know, that makes a lot of sense. And we're seeing a lot of push towards cloud partnerships. I'll share a sneak peek in my book, but we're going from cloud lift and shift to operational efficiency to data-driven digital transformation. But you guys are excelling in industry partnerships and value chain convergence. I mean, we're seeing comms, media, entertainment, tech, and software come back to, I mean, they're the same business model, right? That's pretty interesting, right? You have content, you have their distribution network, you have the technology platform, and then you have the customer network, right? And that, those four things are all coming together, especially in media and entertainment. And I think there's going to be a lot of excitement in the cloud. But let's shift gears real quick. Let's talk about the future of work and the cloud. We've seen how the pandemic and the post-pandemic recovery is going to create these hybrid work models. What does that mean to you and Google as well?
Yeah, no, I think all of us have been learning on pretty quickly in terms of how to operate and run an organization which is distributed and remote. It's amazing to see how technology has evolved and be able to support that kind of a work environment as well. But I think there's still a lot of ability and opportunity available for vendors to provide a better solution for working in a remote environment, as well as hybrid as we start going back to offices in some countries as well. So what we've done with, if you see what we've done with Workspace, the product we have offered around G Suite, which allows you to now collaborate, communicate. We were doing that already in the Word, Docs, and all the related technologies out there, Drive and everything else, and email. But now with Google Meet as well, I think the combination of that and bringing all those pieces together instead of being pieces of it separately and you have to use 15 different apps, we try to combine all of that stuff into one central hub, which really will make a big difference around productivity and allow many of the users and employees to manage the time and their interaction in much more sophisticated way than they could do previously. And that has been a big innovation for us. I mean, doing billions of minutes per day in terms of what people can do on this kind of technologies now.
Okay, lightning round, real quick. Where do you see the potential market ops and area of investments for startups? If you're a startup, how do you work with a cloud provider, or what do you want to jump into? What are markets that you need to? You got 30 seconds.
I would say, I think getting a little more industry specific in domain area where you can provide an app, some solution on top of cloud, but well integrated. I think there are a lot of industries going through very quick transformation. Retail is a big area, financial services, telecommunication, healthcare are the top four, I would say, if they can build something which is integrating cloud with good digital technologies and have a lot more value add around it. I would say that's probably the number one thing, and automation associated with that. How can you automate those very difficult, mundane tasks, but something which you still need to automate?
We're with Amit Zaveri. He's talking about cloud, using that to create new business models, get specific, scale with the cloud, find good partners, and more importantly, bet on the cloud. It's not going away. It's going to be the future of business models for startups and entrepreneurs. Thank you, Amit.
Lovely talking to you, Ray.
Thank you, Ray and Amit. That was a phenomenal session on multi-cloud. We learned a lot about open deployment models in the cloud, the shift to being strategic in the cloud, which has accelerated over the last 2 years. And thanks for sharing exciting new areas for startups to build their technologies in. So really appreciate your time, Amit and Ray, for TiEcon 2021.